Since this time last year, we have witnessed what in reality is the greatest upheaval in recent history, setting in motion waves of change that have the potential to transform our society and economy. The trajectory of some of these changes is already becoming clear. Remote working, a renewed interest in decentralization, increased collaboration between the state and civil society, new approaches to addressing our people's health and social needs, a renewed interest in social enterprise, more progressive fiscal policy. These are just some of the trends that have either emerged or accelerated during the pandemic, and we'll be talking about all of those today and tomorrow. Above all, however, considering the gathering of us here today, we've been reminded of the significance of community. Over the past year, we've taken part in and watched, read and listened to stories of communities coming together, and we all marveled at what could happen when care, compassion, and social solidarity takes priority. And it's important to acknowledge the development of greatly enhanced connection and collaboration between the broad community voluntary sector and the state during the period of the pandemic. And this continues to progress at pace in the time, definitely since our last summit. I can list many specific examples of this. For example, the rollout of the Stability Fund for charities, additional cash allocations in the last budget for the sector, flexible contract arrangements between the sector and state agencies in battling COVID, and the broad solidarity built through the community call. This in turn has enabled our sector's voice to be listened to more attentively on broader issues, as evidenced, for example, by the Wheel's participation in the Shared Island initiative, and just last week, actually, in a major future economic planning discussion organised by the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. I could continue to list more detail about that collaboration and new ways of relationship building, but the fact is that as a result of the necessity of COVID, what really happened is that the sum of cooperation did become greater than the parts. Our sector received a call to action and we responded in flying colours. And the public, the state, and its many agencies and bodies both relied on our contribution and came to acknowledge its vital and central role. Now that the threat from COVID is hopefully at last receding, we're all tempted to seek some sort of return to normal, I guess, or whatever version of that means, as soon as possible. But let's recall, of course, that the old normal wasn't that great in so many ways for so many of us. And I guess for us in the community and voluntary sector organisations, the challenge must be to retain the learnings, flexibility and cooperation that COVID required of all of us. And we must continue with the courage, the determination and the collaboration to take all of this to the next level. And we must make sure that the state agencies that the sector worked so constructively with aim to make this new, much more productive way of working the new normal in the period ahead. New challenges and opportunities for the sector and the state alike will be presented by the rollout of the 3 new government strategies for the sector, all originating from the Department of Rural and Community Development. They being the 5-year strategy for the community and voluntary sector, the social enterprise policy, and the national volunteering strategy. Additionally, new challenges and opportunities can also be presented by the current work of the Health Dialogue Forum, established on foot of the report of the Independent Review Group on Health and Social Services. And indeed, by developing issues like the role of community endeavour in tackling the threat of climate change. We in the Wheel, and we are all here today, are certainly determined to play our part in the fullest. And it's precisely these challenges and opportunities that are going to be the subject of our discussion over the next 2 days. Our summit this year is very much concerned with looking forward. COVID-19 has tested our resilience and taught us much about ourselves as people, communities and organisations. Today's plenary session will be looking at what we've learned about ourselves as a society and as economy, as an economy and as people. So it's outward focus. Tomorrow, the focus will turn inwards to the sector itself in terms of what we've learned about the way we do our work and how that's been impacted positively and negatively by the crisis, and what the best way forward for the sector and its vital work looks like. And I guess this is a time for all of us to be brave and creative, to forge a vision of a better society, a fair and just society, a compassionate and resilient society, prepared for whatever the future may hold. We can deliver on such a vision if we nurture and support and champion our community and voluntary sector. The future is ours to make. I'd sincerely like to thank our speakers in advance, our panel chairs, the nearly 2,000 members of the Wheel itself, our partners, our funders, our staff, and indeed each of you who will be taking part over the next 2 days. I'd also like to thank our board of directors and the additional 13 people who serve along with board members as volunteers on our board subcommittees. And I think that's really important to say that in this National Volunteering Week in Ireland. They work very hard on our members' behalf to progress our organisation's vision of a thriving community and voluntary sector, charity and social enterprise sector at the heart of a fair and just and inclusive Ireland. And lastly, before I hand over to the first session, or before I hand over to the next part of the morning, I'd really like, and on a personal level and sincerely, thank Paul O'Sullivan, who you will hear from tomorrow morning as he addresses his final summit as chair of the Wheel. It has been my privilege and my pleasure, and I've learned so much from Paul, and I've really enjoyed working with him as a board member and as chair. And I've just wanted to say that in front of our members here today. Throughout the next 2 days, please share your ideas and views, share your questions, thoughts and inputs using the question and answer session by using the Q&A function, or on social media using the hashtag Charity Summit. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce on Taoiseach Micheál Martin TD, who will deliver a special message to our summit before we get going. Thank you.